Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you.
Thank you for honoring our invite. Thank you for accepting to be part of our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe we've made the previous podcast. We made a few mistakes in the way we introduced people, and some of them were not very happy about it. So I just want to maybe start by allowing you to introduce yourself, so we don't make the same mistake with you.
Oh, I see. I tend to have so many hats that I'm even losing track on how to introduce myself, because over the years I've found myself dipping my fingers in so many things. I think right now I am like more visible in the digital media space, as the founder of Kawowo Sports, yes, and a number of other digital media platforms. I own a company called Owino Solutions.
Yes.
That primarily is a tech company building web systems. So right now I'm just an entrepreneur that has interests in technology and communication.
I see. This is going to be interesting because I'm also personally within the tech sector. I'm a software engineer by profession. I try to do a little bit of entrepreneurship, but we all can't do the same thing. So
true.
I leave you guys to hire me maybe. Let's start with Kawowo Sports. Yeah, because this is a very interesting part of the media for me. The local sports, right? I see, for example, on Kawowo Sports, I'd say like today's articles. Yeah, you're talking about maybe transfers from somewhere or a coach coming from somewhere. Yeah, but I personally, for example, don't feel connected to the local sports enough. Yeah, do you see the same thing? How do you feel locally, Ugandans, for example, or Africans, or maybe just people in Chanja? How do you think they relate to the local sports?
So I think that was the primary motivator for us starting Kawowo Sports. The truth of the matter is Kawowo Sports started as, like a small child within our company. Yeah. At the time, we were very, substantial enough players in value-added services, VAS and bulk messaging and stuff like that. Yeah. And we had clients building web systems, managing, consulting with digital solutions and all that kind of stuff. And in starting Kawowo Sports, I primarily wanted to be able to deal with two things. One, I was starting to build more and more websites for sports organizations and sports stars. But then, it turned out that actually the people who needed the most to have that kind of digital visibility couldn't afford my fees to be able to have a website. I just built a website for David Obua, who was by then a big star player in the UK, and the Uganda Cranes player. And then, this player from Bunamwaya, which is currently called Vipers, excuse me, asks me and says, can you take me to Europe? Based on seeing David Obua's website. And I'm like, look, I am no agent. That's how this stuff works. I'm not an agent. I just built a system that, gives David Obua visibility on the internet. And, I felt that, okay, if at all this guy was talking to the agent, at the time, the likes of Pini Zahavi were big stars. If he was talking to Jorge Mendes at this time, and this player from Bunamwaya has, got 5 minutes, 2 minutes with Jorge Mendes. Here is a player from Uganda, some random club, and I told myself, if he has that opportunity, what's his pitch? And I felt that was my opportunity to be able to help him, so that when he gets the opportunity to have a look, when a sensible enough agent from La Liga, from the league, whatever it is, when gets close enough to know about this guy, he can be able to look up and know this is his edge, this is his attribute, this is what it looks like, this is what he's good at, and this is the profile. And then, help him move to the next step.
So you're saying the vision here is mostly to create sort of a collection of records of players, right?
That's how we started. We wanted to be able to like digitize Ugandan sportsmen and women to give them some kind of visibility online, so that when the opportunity comes up, my idea was that, okay, this player has been called up to the Uganda Cranes, and some random chap has seen him. Can he go to the internet and find information that backs his initial intuition? And I felt we wanted to be able to provide that service. So initially, I went to the New Vision and hired one of their sports journalists, and I gave him a specific role. I want you to build a profile of the different players. Player X, this is his name, this is age, this is his attribute, this is his height. But then we found out that, first of all, that information is not available. We don't have their photos. And almost everyone doesn't have their photos. We don't know their height unless you go to the guy. And so it dawned on us that, okay, there's no foundation at all. So we decided to say, okay, it needs to be done.
Let's start from there.
So before I knew it, right now, Kawowo Sports has close to 24 staff. But we ended up now hiring journalists, to build original local content that didn't exist. Because there was no foundation. If you want to find statistics for a certain player, it wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah. And where's this funding coming from? So when I look at, say, I'm an Arsenal fan, right? Yeah. And when I go to arsenal.com, for example, to get rumors about who my favorite Arsenal player is dating and things like that, right? I know for sure that these guys have a source of funding because, say, the European betting companies look for data from these sources. They factor a lot in what the bets are going to be, in what the odds are going to be on each bet, right? For you, for now, you have a profile of all these star players, and I'm not a big, maybe I'm a big fan. I've just not had a lot of interest in local football, so I'm not going to presume anything. But for people who say want to just know the hot stuff, I don't want to get in depth info about which player, about where they were born and things like that. I'll probably come to Kawowo Sports, But if the sort of base, the foundation for your content is who the player is, who is interested in this, who exactly are you looking at to be the person coming to look at this, and who is paying for that service to be alive. I know, like you mentioned, agents obviously would come to see this, it would be interesting, but who is paying you to wait for those agents to come and look at it? So
we wanted to have that as a business model, to be a data company that we are able to sell you, great content, great data about the multiple number of players, the different. So we wanted to be able to say, okay, you Arsenal, a recruitment company, you're the scout for Manchester United, you're looking for players from East Africa or from Uganda, you can come in, punch in the age bracket, the qualities, left back, left footed, whatever it is, and find those details. We wanted to do that, but we didn't. The cost was so much, but also the other thing is there was no foundation.
Okay.
So we moved from thinking about being like a data company which would provide those kind of profiles to being a media company. So we moved from being like an Opta to being an ESPN, to being a Sky.
I see. Oh, I see.
Because now what we do is we do match reports. Matches, yes, we'll give you the data. Once in a while we'll have a long form profile about a particular player. We try as much as possible to give you that data side, that this player has this height, he has this number of goals, assists, and stuff like that. We have that data we've been collecting for years.
Yep.
But primarily right now, we're just doing the news. This player is moving to this side, this player is joining the other club, he scored a goal, and the stuff that's happening in general. Just to first build the interest in local sport before we worry about the other aspect of it.
Oh, I see. So maybe from my perspective, and the reason I think people don't pay as much attention to local sports as they do, say, the Premier League or European leagues, right? I feel like there is what can I say? Europe has better players, obviously, right?
No.
Well, okay, we can debate that. Let me first make my point, and you'll clarify that later, right? Okay, my assumption, I feel like the best football players in the world play in Europe.
Okay.
Not like Europeans, like people who play in the European League. No, not Europeans, definitely. I'm saying, so that's my assumption. But I also feel like besides the fact that, if I paid, say, to watch Barcelona, I would be entertained by Messi. In Uganda, if I paid to watch, I know there are TVs that stream the local Premier League. I don't know these people, right? The only thing I know about them is they're Ugandans, right? But for me, I can't even remember like a name of my head, right? But say Massa, to me, is as strange as Messi, except Messi is a better player, right? But the thing is that they're both Ugandans, yeah? And in Europe, the structure of how people become fans is I grew up in Liverpool. My family, it's a culture thing. We go and watch Liverpool matches. We celebrate when Liverpool wins. And so I'm a Liverpool fan. And then I become like, I buy the merchandise and all that, right? But in Uganda, where I feel like, where I started, for me personally, connecting with sports is school. Yeah, I go to secondary school. We participated in a Coca-Cola League. I don't think it's still called the same thing. Maybe it is. We did all that. Like, I remember so some of them, like there's a guy who used to be the goalkeeper for SC Villa, Kira Samson. We were on the same decker, So now I pay attention to those matches because I know, Kira, just because I want to DC him if they score him, something like that, right? But why aren't we looking for that background? Why is it that most media companies, and I saw Azam when it came in, it also went for the, cream, yeah? Why aren't we streaming? Say, I'm from Ginger College. I would like to watch Coca-Cola when Ginger College is participating because there's a bond already that has been established beyond sports. Why is it that the media is not looking at sort of avenues that would get us more involved emotionally to the sport?
So the truth of the matter is it's very expensive.
I see.
Sports broadcasting, sports journalism is really expensive. We have multiple digital media platforms. We are in the business world. We are in the tech world. We are in the sports world. We are in the entertainment world. When we look at our books, the most money is spent on Kawowo Sports with almost similar results. Why? Because producing sports content is expensive for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
One, over years, there's been a lot more money entering other industries than in sport.
Yeah.
Okay, so it means if our entertainment platform called Mbu.ug does content about Jose Chameleon, we don't have to take a photograph of him. There are chances that his entourage already did that, or even his video, or he's produced a video and supplied them to us.
Yeah.
Or you go to his Facebook page and find lots of content. Or he has like the latest iPhone and he's taken a 4K video that has made news, and now you can embed that. A player in the national team probably can't even afford the latest iPhone unless he's playing abroad. So that's one thing, that it costs a lot of money to produce local sports content. Because the clubs, the players and stuff like that are not producing some kind of base for you to build on. The second problem, and also because it's like expensive and because it's perceived that there is not enough interest in it, there hasn't been enough investment from the mainstream media to make things like, easier to continue, to like build on.
Yeah.
So you'll find that the likes of NBS, Vision or something have spent more money producing content about a musician than they have about a sports star. And that makes it difficult to do. You mentioned about how people end up following teams.
Yeah.
That's the same way in like Uganda.
Okay.
My father, I'm not saying me, but as an example, X's father was an Express FC fan, and that family is Express.
Yeah.
The other family is a Villa because, in Masaka, this, that, we are Villa people. That's how it is. I grew up in Mbale for like 10 years. And because I was there, I used to like Mbale Heroes. And so those kind of attachments get to like grow.
Okay.
The only problem for us is that we don't have the support system to help that, build out.
Yeah.
If we had it, then it would mean that someone who grew up liking Mbale Heroes has a connection because it still exists. Mbale Heroes has a jersey that I can buy and give to my child. But right now, Mbale Heroes doesn't have a jersey that I can buy and give to my child. Or a cap or something. It's just now that the likes of KCCA, Vipers and stuff like that are starting to produce hoodies and stuff like that, merchandising products that, can then go to the fans. So we lack that kind of support system, like let's say have our own ground, for example. But actually, something to think about is the fact that many of our clubs don't have like home grounds. They don't have stadiums or something that they control.
Yeah.
So how is it possible for you to build the best if today you're based in Buikwe, tomorrow you're based in Jinja, tomorrow the other day Villa didn't have any venue. Why? Because Nachivugo was under maintenance and KCCA wouldn't let them use Lugogos and they were maroons, So those kind of problems are issues that we face. However, one of the major hypotheses I had when we started Kawowo Sports was I felt that there were enough people interested in local sport. And I was vindicated because 10 years down the road, Kawowo Sports is still serving more and more people. It's simply because there are enough people who are interested in local sport. The only problem is we've not been able to supply them enough content to be able to,
stay engaged.
Stay engaged.
So that's a good point. When I was growing up, it was unheard of. I grew up in a fairly okay place in Tinda, but we weren't rich, right? We didn't have DSTV then. DSTV was too fancy. But we still got to listen to football. Watching football was for rich people only. Why is it that we don't try that approach for local sports? I know, for example, this podcast, if it doesn't cost much to record and broadcast this, right? And if you wanted to do the same, record and rather broadcast live sports, there are services that would support you to do that, right? Audio only. And this is what I think. Some years back, Ugandans were going into a competition on DSTV, I think, for how to comment it. And because of our style of commentating, it's sort of so visual that you feel like you're at the pitch. And why aren't we doing something similar to get this more accessible? And maybe you don't have the answers. I'm just sort of thinking out loud. Because I see that if, say, my school, Jinja College, was playing, right? And I'm driving to work, or I'm even working. I'm at home working. It's easier for me to have my phone instead of listening to someone's podcast, listening to Ginger College with that sort of very comedic commentating. I don't know if that's the right word.
That's a good question. It all boils down to one. There are multiple ways to promote a product. Whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through live TV, whether it's video on demand, highlights. All those are things that need to be done to, there's a reason why the Premier League is the best. People say Premier League is the best league in the world. The truth of the matter is Premier League is the most accessible in the world. And it ends up becoming a chicken and egg kind of thing, because it's readily accessible, it's cheaper to do it and stuff like that. So I agree that many things need to happen. You need to be driving in your car and you can listen to a podcast or to a live commentary about a local game, or have it in a significant chunk of a sports show, because you'll go to a local sports show and 90% of it is talking about Arsenal and Manchester and stuff like that, and 10% runs into Uganda. It goes back to the thing that I was saying. For them to access that information, it's expensive. You see, the reason why we do a lot of international content is because it's that cheap.
It's so accessible.
It's really, really cheap. For the New Vision or the Monitor to do an article about the English Premier League, all they need to do is, have some kind of license with Getty Images, with AFP to give them that information, and then they just slap it into the back page and boom, they have content. Meanwhile, if they wanted to follow on to Paraka problems, they have to send someone to Arua, and because Arua is far away, they have to pay for the accommodation. Remember that very stuff. Also, you have to pay his salary and facilitation and stuff like that. All that to be able to come up and have a simple story. So that's it. That's the challenge for us that we have.
I think it's when you zero it down, it's just the money is not there, and so if it's like a chicken egg problem, is it? I know, like, if there are enough eyeballs, money will appear. Is it also that maybe the eyeballs are not significant enough to attract the money that's required to put this thing on there?
It's again a chicken and egg thing because look, we have events. Talk of nyege nyege.
Yeah.
Nyege nyege is a big deal. The question is nyege nyege a big deal because it's like a really great experience, or because there is enough marketing that goes into it for people to like it? It's both. Because it was marketed well enough, people got to find out it's a great experience, and therefore
they kept coming.
Well. An Express Villa match is massive. It's huge. Tickets should be sold out 2 weeks before, even a month before. But to do that, you need to do the marketing enough. You need to be able to secure the venue, have good security so that someone can take their family member. But if you're worried a stone will hit you, I see. You can't go there. Why? Because Express hasn't invested, or Villa haven't invested, or the league, they haven't invested enough money to make sure that I can take my family. So because of that, I end up going on my own, as opposed to me dragging my 5-year-old son or 10-year-old son to come and get inducted into Express FC. There hasn't been drive-throughs or all these kind of things that investment in stuff like that, or marketing genius that would be used to hype up a game. So at the end of the day, it's just, there is the interest that I'm sure about. It's just being able to do the little things. The marketing, that the only problem is that you see we it's death by 1,000 cuts. A little money missing here, lack of having the right structures in place, lack of poor government support, a few potato growers in control instead of MBAs, but also at the same time they can't afford to go and hire an MBA to be the head of business development at a specific club. All those small things end up killing local sport. Death by 1,000 cuts.
I think I agree. I know, is it called, who's the guy who started the schools, the Chitende guy? Mulindwa, right? So who also realized, I think, which was obvious, that school is a big source for talent. He started his schools and started basing his sort of football ownership or leadership career from there, I think. I don't know why the focus, and maybe I'm overemphasizing this, why the focus wasn't to make school competitions the core primary sports competitions. Because if you go, say, for sports days, some of them are interesting if you go to like a good school, right? Why did he try to get his students to play in quote-unquote national league? Because, in a professional league, if people would have been more willing to pay to watch his school compete with other schools instead.
We already have that. There are two, a number of initiatives that are really helping us thread the needle forward. The federation started what we call the FIFA Junior League, which is like a lower tier league for the younger players. That should be able to provide a platform for talented players to be taken to the league. Okay, that's one. We have the school events that,
the sports day and the inter-school stuff.
There's the Airtel Rising Stars, there's the Coca-Cola thing, East African Games and stuff like that. So there is, when you look at America, the reason why America is a king power in sport is because of it goes through the school. It's a college kind of thing.
I know. That's...
And for that to happen, we need to have it here. But it's an investment to do have. But at the same time, that transition needs to happen, but we don't have it.
I also know here, university, I think, is where sports go to die. Right? I know in secondary school it works, but in university, it's really those hardcore.
Yeah, but it's the transition.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You look at our players. I'll give you a good example. Farouk Mia. Okay?
Yeah.
Really talented player. But the things he is getting access to at, let's say, 18, 20, is something his competitor at 12, 13 got access to. And because of that, it's a different ball game all for us. If we are going to go through the school system, yes, let the kid gain access to education, but sports is a big aspect of his education. And then he gets used to the way things are done. He has basic knowledge, basic education, but at the same time, he's almost pro. He's like a pro. He knows I got training at this time. It is this particular schedule that I have. I go to the gym at this time. I eat this way. A 16-year-old, a 15-year-old knows I shouldn't be eating funny food, but a 20-year-old in Uganda will be eating funny food that ends up affecting how he performs on the pitch.
That's
and so those are all little things that end up affecting us. But, when Farouk Mia moves from Uganda to go and play in Belgium, okay, it's for the first time that he is receiving a pass that the ball is not coming like a rabbit. You get? But it's because he's used here to playing with the pitch that is bumpy and stuff like that. And because of that, he tweaked his game. So now, instead of making a pass that, will slide, a breakthrough, he's used to lob,
air balls, exactly.
Yes, so the way he tries to reach the striker is to move the ball up, as opposed to like an incisive pass, in the middle, cut through defenders and stuff like that. But it's because he's kind of had to change, because if he tried that, the ball would end up somewhere else and not to the target that he wants to do.
Let's switch a bit to sports betting, right? I personally don't have the stomach for betting. I feel like I want to control a lot, so I don't risk a lot of my money in betting. But betting is one of the it's also very controversial a little bit. There are people who think this is not a good thing to do. It's something that we shouldn't encourage, because again, gambling has extreme side effects. But then for me as a sports fan, I feel like this gives me more skin in the game, right? If at the beginning of the league, I put 10 million on my team, Arsenal, the incentive to watch Arsenal matches is no longer entertainment anymore. When Arsenal loses, I'm hurt because my money is off, right? And if I put it on the right team, if I put it on, say, Liverpool last season, the incentive, like when I'm celebrating a win, it's actually good, yeah. So I wanted to just pick your opinion generally on sports betting, and then I'll take it on from there.
I personally don't bet. I think from childhood, we had this village football team when I was a kid, and I was entrusted with money that was collected to buy a football, a ball. And I sort of lost it. I say sort of, but that's the truth. I sort of lost it because I gambled it away. Yes. I think I was moving, and then there are these people, the magicians who come, you can double your money, stuff like that. And somehow before I realized I had 0 shillings, the money that had been collected by the kids in the neighborhood to buy a ball had all gone, because I sort of felt I would double my money. So from childhood, I've always been averse of like gambling and stuff like that. But then the thing about gambling is that for us here, we go into it to make a profit. My father-in-law is English, and when he comes here, he says, "Let's go to the casino." And I'm like, no. Like, but you get to see his mentality is like, we have gone to lose money.
Yeah.
Okay. He knows that this is we've gone to lose money. Yeah. So he goes there like to lose money, and if he wins, it's a bonus. And that is, I think, the difference for us here is that we go into it. Okay, the conditions are so dire that someone resorts to that to make money. However, I think people who do that, like abroad, they go to it to have fun, to get some kind of energy boost and stuff, adrenaline going, and they don't care, or at the very least, like not too worried if they lose money. Obviously, there are those who get addicted, and that's also another like level where they're addicted and they have sunk in lots of money to a point where they indebted. So that is one thing. The problem for us here is that the sports is not organized well enough to be able to be not susceptible to influence.
I agree with that totally.
And because of that, then it's more difficult to have gambling with
fair
local
bets.
sport. But then the other problem is that money is not reaching us. You get?
Okay, how so?
You look at Kenya, SportPesa, a major player, was sending money to Everton in the UK, sponsorships in millions of pounds.
I see. That
while locally they hadn't.
It's Kenyans who are betting their money.
Yes. So that's the thing. If you're putting your money in sports gambling and you can see that it's going to your club or something like that, or a percentage of it goes into like building. Like in the UK, almost every community has a playground. Where there are sports facilities, a net, goalposts, and stuff like that. It's all funded by betting money. So when you go in there, you get to see some results that their local communities benefiting from that. But for us, it's a totally different game altogether.
That's actually a very good perspective. I didn't thought of it like that, but that would make a lot of sense if what's the team that we has Betway? If I'm using
Express,
exactly.
Express,
if someone Express fund and Betway starts to fund it, my incentive to leave all other firms to bet with Betway makes better sense, because even if I lose money, some of it goes to my team. Okay, so that's one way to look at it. But the other way for me, I look at betting, and we have a culture here that's extremely averse to failure, averse to risk and things like that. And I'm not saying betting is sort of a rational way to attempt to learn how to be a risk taker. But the thing about living life that is unpredictable, there's that excitement, there's sort of a romanticism, right, about living life that your fate is not decided, right? And this happens everywhere. Maybe the bigger institutions, say for example, in the US, the Wall Street have created all these insulated institutions around betting on finances and betting on the stock exchange, right? So they don't get the pinch that they would have gotten as real gamblers, which they actually are, right? Here on betting, I feel like that's okay. If I'm entertained with football and I'm willing to try my luck, right? I say, because of my instinct, because I've been watching the entire league, I know for sure that Liverpool is going to lose to this team, say Leeds, that has just come from the league, right? And I know for sure because I just feel it in my gut, and I risk a significant amount of my money. I think for me, I'm okay with a society where people can fall and people can rise randomly, right? Yeah, well, not exactly randomly, but fairly unpredictably, right? That is the thing I have for betting. I think that the whole world is run majorly by betting, except that people pretend that there's a lot of rationale around their decisions, but most of the decisions people make are around betting. And I think sports betting is one of these things that brings it to the border guy. And the border guy now can test his intuition, how smart he is about sports, by making a bet. Most people think it's an instinctual thing, but if you look at these guys, and most of my friends are border guys, right? Well, not most of my friends. Some of my friends are border guys. So some of my friends are border guys. When you look at a guy, the way he monitors his receipts, they have formulas. I remember one of them told me once about his every league, when the league starts, he bets on draws. He picks a random team and he bets on draws and doubles. I don't know if this is a very common thing, but what he does is, say he picks West Ham in a league. On the first match, he will bet, say, 5,000 West Ham on a draw, whatever it's playing. If West Ham doesn't draw, the second match, he will double it again on West Ham and the draw. And for him, he's saying that statistically, there is no way West Ham is going to go 10 matches without drawing. And if he keeps doubling the money, by the time the 10th match, if he still has that money to invest in the 10th match, it will come back big. And draws have at least 3-1. So they have the math behind it. It's not like very formalized math that you understand. They have the intuition, and like betting gives them that opportunity to test their gut, to say, the stuff CEOs say. I'm sure that's the stuff you tell your employees as well. I trust my gut. I've looked at the numbers. That kind of stuff that we think most educated people would say. Sports betting brings it to the person. And for me, that's, I think, I don't bet, and I'm not encouraging anyone to bet, but I think it gives people that maturity to know that life is what it is. You take your chances, and no one is going to draw the road for you. You draw your own road.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that the border guy is doing that in order to have a payday.
Yeah,
You get?
yeah.
I'm doing this. I will have a payday.
Yeah.
As opposed to who I am, putting in my 1,000 Uganda shillings, just to get the fun out of it. And I think that's the major difference for us, is that is it to be rewarded for being right or to be right? If I'm going into it to like, I have the gut feeling, and that if I get a financial, benefit to it, it's a boost. As long as we can do that, then it's much, much easier. And I think that's where the major difference is for us. The border guy will do that, in the hope that I'll have a hit and win big, as opposed to I am getting an energy boost. I'm getting adrenaline from being right, that I can tell that team X in the Uganda Premier League is going to win. Team this is going to draw in the rugby league. That kind of stuff.
I see.
Once we reach that level, and it's at everyone's position. Like a border guy will put 1,000, while you may put an extra zero at the end of at the end of your 1,000. At that point, then it will be you would say that there is more progress going on. But for now, it's all about I'll get that win.
I agree. Let's also talk about the tech. So from what I'm picking from the conversation right now, your inspiration to build Kawowo is not initially sports. It's because you have this tech background, right? You and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. You've built websites. You've sort of gone into the digital media before it's sort of primed up as it is today, and you realize sports media, doing digital media for sports is a venture. Yeah. Where do you start from? Where do you pick up this interest in tech? Is it the inevitable path because of your schooling? Is it a movie you watched and you're like, I need to hack that guy's thing, like, in that movie? Where do you pick the inspiration to go into this?
Well, okay. So two things. First, I'll just first answer the issue about Kawowo Sports. Kawowo Sports, I am a huge sports fan. And so a combination of two things primarily help me, take the next leap to invest in having Kawowo Sports. The first one I explained to you about, interacting with local players who need my understanding of it, my reading of what they were telling me is that they need exposure. And so I felt they needed a platform to be able to expose them to the outside world. The second part is my own selfish needs. I am a huge sports fan, and I really did not like the fact that the Uganda Cranes could play on a Saturday and then I get to know about the information on a Monday. Because Uganda could go to Cape Verde.
That's true.
Even if New Vision or Monitor sent someone there, he would go in there and then file his report on the Sunday, and then
gets publication on Monday.
That's when now I can get all the details about it. And when they do that, it's
already
5 paragraphs. But I don't have all the details.
I see.
And also, after a while, then we would have maybe the radio guys and stuff like that. But then for international matches, then they don't have it. So I really had that problem that even when information would come within 24 hours, New Vision would run it like the next 48 hours. And then the mainstream media had this I really didn't like it. The tendency to publish digitally 24 hours or like about 12 hours after going on print. So the print would come out, and then Monitor was actually the best. That at midnight, that's when you would get the day's stories.
Yeah,
you get after they have gone on print. So that was a problem for me because I am of the generation that was using less and less of print. But on the phone, on my desktop, I want to access information, and all the information was stale. So we decided to do it for ourselves. It meant that, the information that would come from the stadium gets to us as quick as possible. And that's why in the, after a few years of Kawowo Sports, one of like the projects that I was highly invested in was doing a live ticker to have live text commentary from local games.
okay.
So right now, when we have any big enough game, you will have our staff giving you live updates from every corner of that game. You'll have about 5 staff updating one page live commentary coming on. And so I picked that up because I used to consume a lot of the BBC, the Guardian, and even when I was not able to watch on TV, I could be able to open a page on on the website and receive minute by minute text updates, photos and stuff like that, and occasionally some video clips that would tell me what's happening minute by minute. And I felt we needed to have that, and
Something
I also felt
similar.
that it added like value to us. So that was really me getting into that, the combination of being a sports fan and also coming from a tech world, and I felt that I could serve myself in that way. Getting into technology was when I was about maybe 13, 14 years.
Oh, I see.
I'm from Tororo, but my parents are teachers and they were based in Mbale. So a combination of like misfortune and like making lemonade out of your lemons. After primary 7, I was among the best in the district, but my parents are quite progressive, and they don't believe in this, like I'm the second born, I'm the son. I have an elder sister, and they don't believe in this, the boy has better more stands stronger ground or anything like that. And so they had made a bet and taken my sister to a really nice school, boarding school, where by our level it was a significant leap. And so I think everything had been spent on taking my sister to that. But I feel they had their own forecasts and projections that didn't work out. So the short story is that at the end of P7, I have completed. I am meant to go to high school, and there is no money to take me to high school because everything has been spent. My sister paying her fees and taking her there and all that kind of stuff. So the truth of the matter is they couldn't even afford to take me to the local, high school, those cheap schools. Forget Mbale says like these high schools that have been sent by other people. So my parents couldn't even afford that. And so basically a range of miscalculations, at least that's in
from your perspective.
Think about it later on. I think it was just a number of, I've also had a number of miscalculations where you think, there's a revenue stream coming in here, and then it's out. So I think they kept believing that money is coming. That money never came. So I ended up spending a whole year waiting to go to school. While all the neighbors would be going to school, I was just there. So within that year, my mother then makes me, do some form of entrepreneurship, selling food stuff. So I would go to the street and sell boiled yams, potatoes, and stuff like that to people who are heading back home. And so, I get to do that for about a year. Then afterwards, a family friend started a charity school at an abandoned railway station in Mbale. It's like this school where you get like people who really can't go to school, and then you put them there. We are being taught by like fellow students, people who have not even finished senior 6. All they are doing is getting us notes from Mbale SS or whatever, and then coming to read to us that this is what the prairies are. But anyway, so that's how my secondary education kicks off. I go into this charity school where I am the pioneer student because my mother had that a family friend was starting a charity school to get people who can go to school. And so that happens. After about 12 months or so, this school ends up having a partnership with a Swedish organization that sends in like exchange students from the Lund University to come and I think get some kind of experience in Africa and stuff like that. So these people would come in with their projects, come and do this, teach about first aid. Think about all the things a teenager or 20-year-old Mzungu can come and teach people. And so in that process, I was friendly with these people, being the pioneer student and all. And that's when I saw them have computers, laptops.
I see.
So I asked one day, what is this thing that you keep tapping onto every now and then. They tell me those are computers. And even at that point, we didn't have a television. So my inclination was that it's a television.
It's a TV,
But it wasn't. It was a computer. So they explained to me that we are sending messages to our families. So I'm like, explain all this stuff to me. So they start like explaining about emails, about stuff like that. And I like really, really got interested. And I said, you know what? Show me this stuff. And so I started accompanying them. What would happen is they would type their emails in Microsoft Word. Then they would go to the internet cafe where internet was 500 shillings per minute. And, dial-up connection.
Yeah.
What, those 16 kbps? Something like that is amazing. I still have that sound ringing in my ears when you, and so that is how I get,
interested in
learn
this
about
stuff.
the internet and computers and stuff like that. And, so I would spend as much time with them, learn as much and this is all basic stuff. But whenever they would go, they would bring me software. The latest antivirus, the latest operating system, this is for doing this is for doing
did
that.
you ever use Mavis Beacon?
All that kind of stuff. Suddenly I had like so many CDs that had been brought.
Yeah.
Whenever the next batch of volunteers come, the one previously would say, send this CD to Joseph. Whether it's for web development, whether it is antivirus, whatever it is. So because of that, I ended up becoming some kind of guru all over Eastern Uganda, and I would be the one. If your computer is broken down, I have the right software for it. I can reinstall it, troubleshoot and stuff like that. And then another chance happens. Some guy decides to invest in having a proper internet cafe, which has like 10 computers. Like a proper investment. That was going to be the biggest internet cafe in Eastern Uganda. This guy does it. My father hears about it, and it's like, my son, can I swear in this podcast?
Yeah, it's okay.
He's like, my son is the shit,
Yeah.
And like, that's what he tells the guy. The guy's like, really? Like, yeah, my son is the shit. And so they say, okay, you send him to me. And as it so happened, the internet cafe was being set up. A consultant from Kampala had been brought in to do the networking and stuff like that. So at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, this guy, I go for an interview. I left that place at 10 p.m. because I like impressed the guy. I already had enough knowledge and I could do almost everything. And so I ended up getting that job. So I became the systems administrator at about 15 years of the biggest internet cafe in Eastern Uganda. And imagine all the time I had to scour all the web platforms, to talk to Indians, talk to Italians, and made internet friends who taught me everything. This is how you code. This is how you do this. This is the software we are now using.
I see.
So it's now Dreamweaver. It's now this and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I really get into it and learn everything. Before continuing with school, and once I continued with school, I just continued.
The path
doing
was clear. Yeah.
The only problem is that when now I was meant to go to the university, again the same problem. We couldn't afford to get to university, and I didn't have like a government scholarship, and so my mother is like, you go to the university, find the cheapest course, and enroll for it. So that's how I enrolled for psychology and not computer science.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And then did 3 years of psychology. But, all those years I would spend in the computer lab of social sciences. I was building websites in that computer lab in the social sciences. And no one had a clue. And that's where I started my company initially as a freelance web developer. But then eventually I started doing all the small things. Set up a company here, do this. And before I knew it, I was a tech company and I was doing stuff. But now I'm more of a businessman than a developer.
Yeah, I see. I see. That story echoes a little bit with mine. Mine was at a later age, I think at university. Because when I got interested, I failed A-level so much. But I was lucky that when I got to campus, they introduced software engineering. So we were the pioneers of the course, and the marks were really low.
Yes.
So I was happy that I failed.
Low barrier entry.
In fact, I think the same thing with you. At some point, you reflect back and say, if my parents had the money to send me to school then, this would have been a different this would have been like a totally different path. But for me, I remember pastor, I wasn't sure whether I can do the coding. I went to class and all that, but I wasn't sure whether I can actually develop something. It's also extremely different. What you learn in class, you learn programming in class. It's totally different from actual coding
Reward,
and I think this is like one of the biggest problems we have in classes. But I have this pastor who wanted to do a pyramid scheme of bring people that networking pyramid scheme thing, but wanted it online. So my roommate tells me, this guy will pay, let's go and try it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I go, we gamble with the thing. I iterate over about, say, 2 months, the thing works. That's when I start to believe in myself. And my path is also decided from there. But I totally like understand. Your story clicks a lot for me. But here's the thing, right? So you're at university, you're building websites, right? You're also building a business, and the pressure from the parents, are they asking you to, are they choosing for you what to focus on, one thing or the other? Do they want to say the degree, so they're telling you to focus on the degree, or is there no conflict for you there at all? You're able to do class as you're doing your development and business stuff as well?
No influence or anything like that. I'm lucky that for some reason, I think I do have this profile from the parents as being like a good boy. I see. He's not doing anything bad, so whatever he's doing is okay. And so I think I've always had that kind of freedom, let him do whatever he wants, and there's no influence of that sort. So
so the tech sector here in Uganda, when you look at China, say if you look at China before the 90s, right? If you look at China, say 1986, someone would make the argument that we were at par technologically with them. If we were going to make the same investments, maybe they still had the population, which is a big resource China has, but we were at par. We still would have same, maybe Malaysia even. China,
or Singapore.
Singapore, for example. China could be a big bet, right? If you look at the tech sector and the political decisions or the sort of big decisions, big picture decisions that have been made, what is the point in when you can understand where you feel like you would have made a better decision rather than what the government has gone with? And I know there are things like UTL, for example. It is existent. People don't know, but UTL is the biggest ISP. But for example, UTL, it has first of all almost all the patents and copyright stuff. It has access to it has legally, it's sort of the guy in the big seat, but people don't know about it. It's not working at its capacity. There's that, and I'm not saying UTL. And there are other things, that have happened because of terrible political decisions or just ignorance, or just because we're Uganda. Which of those decisions in the tech sector alone do you think? If I was the guy in charge, if I was the guy who could snap Thanos, this is where I would have taken the Uganda technologically.
How much time do you have?
It's okay. It's an open time podcast. So take it away.
We have days. We need to have a bed or something like that. So we have a problem, and I think I can use the best example. The best example is OTT. Uganda introduces a social media tax, and everyone is, not everyone, but the majority are against it, from the users, the industry players, stakeholders, the ISPs don't like it. The regulators also actually don't like it.
How come?
I thought. Yes, this is the truth. So that tells a lot. Without me saying much, it tells a lot that you do not like the social media tax. Okay, the guy who facilitates the collection of that OTT tax in the form of your ISP does not like it. Okay, your friends do not like it, and the truth of the matter is the technocrats at the Ministry of ICT, the regulators, they don't like it. So now that begs the question: who actually likes this OTT tax, and at the same time, why do they wield so much power? Okay, so when OTT tax, fun fact is that OTT tax came in effect when my son had just been born a day before, and so there were lots of ththese jokes about naming OTT or something like that.
Did you name your son OTT?
So it was like really funny. So we're in London. I've just had my son, and I come back maybe I think a month or two afterwards, And I get to the airport. I think my phone automatically gets onto the, airport Wi-Fi that had been set up there by, the likes of Liquid and Airtel and stuff like that. So I don't get to notice the problem. And then I get out of the airport, so I lose Wi-Fi access. But I bought data. I bought like a data bundle. And all across the road, I'm trying to WhatsApp because I wanted to tell my mother-in-law we've arrived. That's like my kind of role. Tell your mother-in-law you've arrived. Exactly. And I couldn't. I just couldn't. And yes, I'm a techie. I should be able to troubleshoot.
That's what I would imagine, yeah.
Turn off Wi-Fi, turn it back on, do what? Check. I have data, I've done the star,
check,
whatever.
Check the data.
I've rebooted the phone. I had done everything except pay for the OTT. And I could I scratched my head. Why can't I? What's happening? Yeah. And I would try to fix and all that kind of stuff. And the problem is it just seemed not to be working and stuff like that. Until I think when I was just about to reach, and this is we're talking 3 a.m. in the morning, just about to reach home. And then I see some emails come in and I'm like, I have emails. It's the social media. That's when I remember. I don't have the social media tax. Yeah. And then I try to get it, and then I realize airtime can't get me social media tax. I need to have mobile money, and I don't have mobile money. I don't even have 200 shillings to be able to buy for a day. But so I come here and I'm engaging with lots of stakeholders in the industry about this tax and stuff like that. I have a couple of friends at Facebook and at Twitter, and that's the talk. Okay, we know you're Ugandan, and so whenever you're talking to them, what are we talking about? Obviously, we're talking about the social media tax.
Yeah,
and so we have these engagements. Facebook is talking to a bunch of people, and even around about that time, Facebook had just done a grant to help us have connectivity. The fiber connection that had happened in West Nile region and all that kind of stuff. About 300 kilometers of fiber connectivity was being done, and lots of projects that were coming up. And then suddenly, guys are pissed off. You're like, man, we're doing this stuff for Uganda, and then
the tax thing.
Having a social media tax where you don't really gain anything of it. So in the process of engaging minister, technocrats, and all this kind of stuff, the simple truth of the matter is these guys were not in control.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
Yes, they were talking about, but the truth of the matter is that the stuff was done without their approval. Yeah. And so that really tells a lot about the kind of industry we're working with, the country that we are working with, that the people who are most affected by it do not have the control, And so because of that, it is very difficult for us to have the kind of environment where a young kid comes up, gets an idea about an app, about a specific solution, and then does it, and then there is a system to help.
Yeah,
we just don't have that. It's not like you wake up great idea.
Exactly.
There's lots of traction happening. The VCs come, money is flowing and stuff like that. The way you see, whether this is how Snapchat works, this is how Facebook started, this is how we just don't have that.
And the thing also that pisses me off about that is this TikTok story, right? So we always thought Silicon Valley is a place for such funny apps that it's addictive, but you can't justify why you have it, right? Until I don't know the name of the company. They buy Musical.ly and they convert it into TikTok.
ByteDance.
Yeah, exactly. And they convert it into TikTok, and TikTok becomes the sensation, the sort of the social network for the time for all the kids. Yeah, and that the thing that meant is, Silicon Valley is losing the central power to innovate, innovate in the Silicon Valley terms. Any other person can do it. But now in Uganda, we can't, because if I'm going to build a social network, convincing people to invest enough for it to become something, these things are going to come up, but, people can't access your service because of all that. And even if you can say right now that, say, if I built a new service, it's not on OTT, you don't know that for sure. They keep adding services. And for me, my story for OTTs, I knew OTT was there, but once I had, because of the work I do, I delayed to submit a pull request for the work I did, and then I had a call with the guy who was supervising me. But I didn't know that Google Hangouts requires OTT. So I prepare everything. I go and I fail to connect. And I can chat with him, tell him I can't connect. But I can, and I didn't know. So I think the guy is thinking this guy is just trying to come up with excuses. And I've been here the whole time I know OTT. And, slowly by slowly, other services started getting on. And UCC won't tell you. I think they publish a list with the telcos. So you have to call the telco and ask them, I can't access this. And they look through their list and they're like, oh, that's on OTT. That's yeah, that's on OTT. And for me, I think that is also the frustrating bit is the transparency and the competence. When you say that the power is not there, I don't condone, but I understand that the structure of governance that we have, and I feel this is also my theory. I feel like Uganda the governance right now is looking more at Russia as the model, right? There is only one acceptable metric of measuring whether this is going well is if Museveni stays in power, right? That is like the only acceptable metric. It doesn't matter everything else. If, say, the roads are too bad that could threaten Museveni, the roads will get made, right? If, say, the hospitals are also too bad that they'll threaten Museveni's hold on power, he will fix the minimum, so the metric is counted. If the schools are too good that kids actually come out when they are smart enough to threaten his power, education will go to the toilet as well. And for me, I feel like, that's a model that Russia is taking also, trying to, we give you just a minimum amount of freedom, not to mess with the structure. And TikTok is one of those, and rather OTT is one of those. Social media was going to become the real problem. If Bobby Wine, for example, he has this TV right now, right? If he was able to talk to the people in the villages at no cost, and you can access Bobby Wine on Facebook without having to forego that 200 shillings a day, I think that was going to become a problem for them. So they decided this doesn't tally well with our single metric we have, so OTT could be the thing to do. And unfortunately, like, this is what we have to work with. There is a...
But I really don't see OTT in relation to politics as
a censorship
like
tool.
the main influence.
Okay.
It may have its effects, and it may be doing a particular job that needs to be investigated. However, the truth of the matter is, it really doesn't affect the most vocal people. Because you see, people who make noise about politician X and stuff like that, whether for or against, can actually afford the 200 shillings per day.
No. So the point is not to censor you from speaking. So this is, again, innovation around censorship. The point is to censor me from listening to you, right? So my grandmother, under normal circumstances, if I got her a mobile phone and I taught her how to use WhatsApp, she would be willing to use WhatsApp, right? But then it has to be my expense to buy her tax, 200 shillings of tax every day, in order for her to use WhatsApp every day. You understand? So for Bobby Wine to reach to her, Bobby Wine can speak. Yeah, but if the message can't reach to the majority of Ugandans because there is an expense to listen to Bobby Wine, then their job is that, okay, from my perspective, that is how I see it interacts. It obviously won't, Bobby Wine will speak, I'm sure he'll figure out how to
But that's exactly my point, is that the people he wants to speak to are invested enough to be able to have the OTT tax in order to have that engagement continuing.
Also.
I feel that the people who are least interested in either Museveni or Bobby Wine or any other, the people who are interested in connectivity, in being able to know this is the price of my maize that I can sell, this is the better price, or this is the better access that I can have, those people who really, like the politicians, are second thought to them, are the ones who now are affected. The people who are interested enough to make the noise, they are invested to a point where they'll say, I'll put in the 200 shillings
to listen to the noise,
to do it, because they're invested. They're already, locked in, whether it is a Museveni supporter or a Bobby Wine supporter. The problem is the people who are on the fence. The thing that OTT has done the worst for us, forget the censorship bit. The thing that I feel has done it, in any kind of structure, we have people getting onto the internet in phases, getting introduced to the internet in multiple phases. So the challenge that it has brought in is that it has increased the time it takes for someone who had zero connection with the internet in any form. It is now increased. Someone who would take 12 months now will take 24 hours to have that interaction. So let's say access to the internet is expanding, that you get to know about it, or your nephew gets to know about it, and then from your nephew, his friends or his auntie also now get to know about it. The problem is that now that conveyor belt is starting to take longer, where it would mean that you get to know about it and then the next guy gets to know about it within a space of 2 weeks.
I see.
Now it is taking 6 weeks. And because of that, we are having less and less people joining
the internet,
which now becomes even more difficult for us to have the main pool that then can be, turned either into a political tool or an economic tool or anything like that.
Yeah. So the biggest pro-OTT argument is the fact that these companies, and I don't really understand it, I don't even believe if this is true. So, for example, Facebook, they make tons of money selling content to Ugandans or distributing content designed by Ugandans, right? I create my video, for example, for this podcast,
but they don't.
Share a few pictures. No, they do. I mean, the point is, as long as Facebook will get you engaged. So the money thing is not a direct line, but if I put a video on Facebook, right, and that video manages to get, say, David or you to spend 2 more extra minutes on Facebook, that is sort of how they calculate how much engagement they have, right? In overall, they will target you better for their advertising, which is their actual business. But at first, they need this raw material of people creating content and getting that content distributed, right? And my assumption here is, if Facebook has a way to monetize my attention on Facebook, but Uganda is not getting any income out of it, which I don't believe, because I see say Airtel and other Ugandan companies advertising on Facebook, where I'm sure there has to be a deal with URA. I don't see how that is possible without, I don't know how that works, but it's tricky. And I've called URA once to ask about whether Facebook pays tax, and they said they can't provide that information, which is, suspicious. They would have said no if it wasn't. But either way. So what the point with the pro-OTT argument is, if Facebook is making a lot of money, we want some of that. And since we don't want to go into all this legal trickery of getting the money from Facebook, we can get the money from people who use Facebook, right? It's easier for us to do that. And sort of that is the big pro-OTT argument, is we're actually just collecting money because someone out there, because Facebook had started providing internet for free, Facebook for free, had started making deals with telcos a few years back. So I think on Airtel you could get zero Facebook for free and things like that. And people were also getting worried that is, Facebook trying to use to monopolize using the financial muscle it has.
Net neutrality. Let me first be very clear about one thing. I am anti-OTT. I really feel that it is one of the worst legislations we've had for the industry, and it is taken us like several years back.
Yeah.
The thing about taxation, companies should pay for taxes. Okay, Facebook should pay taxes and stuff like that. So should everyone else, the Googles and stuff and the like, or Trump for that matter. But as Uganda, one of the things we really need to say is like have that kind of context. Like, where are we? Okay, we cannot compare ourselves with France, for example, that is pushing for legislation, or Australia and stuff like that. We can't compare ourselves to it.
Okay, so first clarify where they are and where we are, if you can.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that they benefit a lot more
from such legislation.
Like from having that legislation. There's enough money.
I see.
So when you ask yourself, if Uganda introduces a tax on Facebook's earnings in Uganda, how much does it generate? Okay, And that's why I was saying no.
Oh yeah, okay. I see your point.
Yes,
yeah.
Airtel is advertising.
I see your
I'm
point.
in the digital media.
Yeah, no,
and the truth of the matter
see your point,
is,
yeah.
out of every $1, 90% of it is going to the duopoly of Facebook and Google. Okay, and then the smaller amount is being left to us to benefit. So that is one thing to look at. If indeed Facebook were to pay taxes on their earnings in Uganda, what is that? Okay, and in relation to it, when you compare it with the challenges we are facing because of OTT, the price we are paying because of OTT. Okay, if you compare that to the amount of money that Facebook would have been paying for taxes, it's not comparable.
I see.
And that's why I said we are not at the level of like France, where if they indeed tax for the amount of money that Facebook or Google pull out of the UK, out of France and stuff, it is a substantial amount of money. The truth of the matter is, like, when you do that, when you look at the investments that Facebook itself has done in the region, whether it is in the form of connectivity or anything like that, it doesn't compare. Okay. And so that brings us to the other bit. It's like, what can we do to be in the position to, in the future, say Facebook pay up or we are kicking you out? Okay? The reason why TikTok is, there are two examples. So Australia
TikTok
brought in new legislation to say that if Facebook doesn't pay news companies, okay, so Facebook has to pay news companies, okay, to have news on Facebook. Then Facebook said, it's okay, we are going to remove news from Facebook. Okay, we're going to tweak our algorithm so that you don't have to put news. So Facebook can afford to do what? To walk away. The reason why TikTok is tolerating tolerating Trump's madness, it's because the US is such a market that you cannot afford to walk away from it.
I see.
Uganda is that market where you can say, okay, good, it's okay, goodbye.
Yeah, let's take that one off.
Yeah. And so I feel what we should be doing is putting ourselves in a position where we can hold a TikTok by the balls and say, you know what, pay up or not, or you're out. Why? Because the loss is in the market that you would have missed out. So everything to be done is to build our numbers, to make sure more people have, because there are more benefits for your grandmother, whoever, to have access to connectivity that will be able to either help with the economy or spy education, or some random kid starting to learn how to code because they can watch YouTube or something like that. All those are things that we should be working on, is making sure that it's so that cheap to get online. Instead, what we've done is made it slightly more expensive. So my young brother, who is a student, and could, even if he's straight on his head and wants to do it now, there is an extra layer he has to pay to do what, to access information or to learn about something. And that's the challenge that we have. We even in terms of Facebook usage alone, what are the numbers?
I see. I think that makes a lot of sense. And also there is the question of, if you look at, say, China, if you look at China, right? China bans Google and just goes to copying Google, right? They create their search engine that is extremely inspired by Google. China bans Facebook and they create similar things. I know Russia, I don't know if Facebook is there, but Russia has VK, right? And VK is almost like Facebook. They have the ability to clone, basically, to clone these tools. I'm wondering why in Uganda we don't, and maybe that speaks to the fact that we don't still have the numbers that could use that, right? Because if instead of us saying, we could tax Facebook and make it more expensive for people to access it, but we could produce a local alternative and say, Kawowo book, and just have, but why aren't, say for example, people like you, why aren't you trying to get into that space, social media space?
But that's the thing. That's the thing, is that the way we are set up is to frustrate the local guys. You see, before we reach a point where we can build our own things, people need to learn how to do it.
I see. I agree.
Not enough people know. That's the point. Not enough people are coding, because we need to reach a point where there are too many pointless apps coming out of Uganda, to a point where half of it, a quarter of it, is sensible enough and people can solve problems and people need it. So that is the thing. But we cannot expect ourselves to demand for certain kind of things without putting in place a particular kind of structures. We have no data centers. If we are to do this, where are we going to host them? Let's say we've taught everyone how to code and they have come up with fine stuff. The hosting bill alone, no one can afford it. There is no, like a group of people who are investing specifically in this kind of stuff. The government, it doesn't have look at Eversend.
Tell me, I don't know how the...
Look at Eversend. Such a great company.
It's a good idea,
What support did the Ugandan government give Eversend? What? Great company that actually, as a matter of fact, right now, if the French came and said, we are going to tax Eversend, they will gladly pay the French. If the Ugandans came, they would start saying, hold on a minute. Why should we pay taxes?
Why should we pay Ugandans?
Why? Because the French put in place a system that helped Eversend thrive.
I see.
While they are here, there is no support system at all. There is, let's just say, connectivity. We tried this Wi-Fi hotspots, you get. So all those are things that you would feel that the system should be able to help build out that, but we just don't have it. So when you compare ourselves with the likes of China, it's because the market is there, however small our market is. But you ask yourself, what has the government done to make sure? People always tell me about this thing. I have struggled for years to have internet. Okay, sensible internet where my team at Kawowo Sports or anything can stream something and push out something 100 Mbps, something like that. And I've always asked myself, why is the internet expensive? You compare yourself with the Kenyans. Why is internet 10 times cheaper in Kenya than it is here? And because of that, there are more people on the internet. There is a bigger market. There are more people who can use digital services. More people can do all sorts of stuff. But we don't have that here. Why? Because the cost. People have actually... The real biggest problem why internet is expensive, forget mobile data. For you to have the internet, you set up your small company, a web development company, where and you're building out your app, you're a new startup, and you want to have sensible internet, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg.
No, that's true. I agree.
Okay? $100 per Mbps. So if your bill is going to be $1,000 every month on just internet alone,
no, that's not sustainable. How would you expect
to go? And that is because we don't have fiber running everywhere that has been set up by the government. There is no structure. Today, company X comes and does lays their cable. Then another one also comes and lays the same. And then suddenly you have a new company comes in and there's nothing to plug into. You get? They come in okay, so you're here, and if company X moves, it means the other company also just can't come and plug in. So the cost of what we call last mile connectivity is a challenge. So because of that, you cannot wake up today. We hear these stories. I started this thing in my garage. Yes, they started that thing in the garage, but the internet is great. They have computers, and there are the local governments. Forget the federal government. The local governments have all sorts of incentives. You can go to the local library and use the services that are available. The government has the local government. We're not talking about the local government, the LOC ones and the tools. They have this program where they have clinics to teach people how to do this. Where is it?
So okay, let's talk about regulation now. I think that point is extremely clear on the infrastructure. Let's now talk a little bit about regulation. And personally, I think that UCC UCC, that's the one. I think it's becoming some sort of threat to like fundamental human rights in the country. Yeah, and if you look at the perspective they're taking, right, for example, now my podcast. Yeah, I need to get a license, apparently. Yeah, I want to see how this unfolds, but ideally, if it was mine, so since it's not mine, someone else owns it. If a Ugandan owned this, I would have to get a license to broadcast these episodes. Yeah, which for me, I don't know if it makes sense because there are laws already within the constitution that would ban me, if I want to work legally, would ban me from saying things that are seditious anyway, right? So if UCC wants, so what I don't understand is that, because I understand why a broadcaster would need a license, right? Because if say, and most of these laws were set up in a world where they assumed there's one TV in the house, right? So there's one TV at 8 a.m., rather at 8 p.m., say, the whole family is at home. We don't want a broadcaster, broadcasting things that would be obscene to the family, right? So you need, even language, for example, you need a license to assert that we are willing to forego our freedom of speech, so we don't say obscenities and things like that. But my podcast, if you were to listen to it with your family, it would be your choice. Otherwise, you also have a choice of giving everyone a phone and let them listen to whatever they want. Yeah. So I don't understand why we are required to get such a broadcast, something similar to a broadcast license, to just speak. Yeah, I feel like this is directly contradicting my right as a human being to be who I want to be, right? And I don't know if you have opinions on this because you're in media, and I'm sure for you, you're much bigger than us. So for you, they're coming for you. For me, I pretend around, but for you, they're definitely going to come for you.
They already came for me. I already pay, I think this is our second or third year, paying UCC. In essence, I really don't mind regulation.
Okay.
It's how it's managed. That's one. How it's communicated, and who the target is.
Yeah.
I, as a media company, I don't mind following some kind of rules that is set up because we do it at some kind of enterprise level. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to tell me some random guy doing a podcast, a vlog, or stuff
a Facebook
like that,
page,
posting on, that's
yeah,
utter rubbish. Go and set up the standards or have the regulations after involving the stakeholders, that everyone is agreeable that obviously we shouldn't put someone being murdered in a Facebook Live or something like that. Yeah. All those things, fine. But then have it to the right people, the right organizations.
Yeah.
I don't mind paying that regulation, but then because I can be two people. I can be Joseph Owino, the guy who runs Mbu. Okay, I'll pay that tax. But if you want me as Joseph Owino, the individual,
the Uganda,
to be able to pay whenever I post an update or to like just say some kind of rubbish somewhere or wake up one day and do my podcast, that's a problem. So the way to do it is, one, you need to engage with the stakeholders. You don't just wake up and put in place some kind of regulation. And then two, have some kind of tiers and say, if you're reaching significant number of people, then you fall into the category. You get? Say, okay, fine. Let's get guys who do podcasts, but if you're hitting 1 million downloads.
You see, for me, I still have a problem with that.
You get?
Okay.
Then you follow the rules.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Which, this whatever kind of rules, ABCD, whether it is saying don't incite violence or anything like that, a steady set of rules that would have come up in consultation with the stakeholders, which then would include you. I'm okay with that.
So here's my thing, right? We already have the law that would ban me from inciting violence, right? So if I posted, say, something that incites violence on Facebook, even without this new UCC law, without the requirement that I get a license from UCC, I would be liable by other laws, right? If I incited, even if it didn't reach 1 million people, right? What my problem is this kind of sort of the future of broadcast, as I imagine it, right? Where it's a little bit more decentralized, yeah? I don't need, say, to work for NTV. I sit in my home, I record my thoughts the way they entertain me, and I broadcast them, and I trust that if you find this equal as interesting, you make the decision, the personal decision, go into it, download the app, sign in, click play, right? Which is different from TV, TV or radio, because the structure of TV or radio is TV is at home. At say 9 a.m., everyone is coming to watch news. Yeah, you don't. Right now maybe you can have multiple TVs in each bedroom, but it's not as personalized as I would like. As I imagine what I'm doing is, right? Is you go and get it on your phone and consume it as an individual. Yeah, so you can decide to censor me yourself and say, no, this guy is a nonsense guy. I don't want to listen to this, or this is interesting for me. Yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm reaching out to 1 million people or not. The problem I have with UCC stepping in as the middleman, first of all, UCC has a terrible reputation, right? It's I also don't like it personally, let's say that, right? I also don't like it, but the thing also is I don't understand what data informs this, right? And again, you mentioned involving the stakeholders. I feel like I'm just being a victim of circumstance because they want to put a cap on what Bobi Wine can say. Yeah, they want to make sure they can control what who Bobi Wine can reach to. And again, to my other point is, I think that's the reason for OTT is to make sure they can limit who you can talk to if you're a noisemaker, right? And me now, a guy who just wants to sit down and converse with people, I feel like my rights are being interfered because this will be harder for me by either way. If I have to go now and fill out forms and apply for this or pay a fee for this, I already invest in small infrastructure, minimum infrastructure. If I have to pay an extra fee that I don't know for what reason, this would be harder for me. But if they wanted people, for example, to engage more with this kind of stuff, people to innovate around this, right? This is, say, one of the podcasts, and we are being inspired also by podcasts we've listened to out there. But maybe a kid out there, a kid in secondary school, has an idea of how they can do some TikTok-ish podcast thing, yeah? For that kid, if he also needs to first get a license from UCC to start doing what he wants to do, they make it much harder. And for me, that's my problem.
I agree with you that, and even when you look at OTT and stuff like that, like things that are barriers, okay, to us moving forward shouldn't be put in place. We are a country that needs lots of growth. People talk about growing at 5%, 10%. We are a country that needs to be growing at 100%, 200%.
Yeah, I agree.
To be able to even just reach the level of our neighbors, Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay? So I fundamentally agree with you that everything that kind of impedes that progress needs not to happen. Obviously, OTT is one of them, and obviously is taxing or requiring a license of a small-time blogger, whatever it is. That's not right. So in that aspect, I agree with you. But at the same time, when it comes to the bigger publishers, there needs to be a set of rules. Especially now in the day and age of misinformation and all sorts of fake news and stuff like that, there needs to be some form of rules that need to be followed. I am okay with that, in that there is some form of regulation and where there is some independent body, and I'm stressing on independent body being able to come up with a set of rules that everyone plays by. Okay, and at that point, that set of rules, that independent body would have multiple representation from everyone, from the publishers, from the government, from whoever else is part of that, supposed to be a stakeholder. So from that level, I am okay with it. And that is why I mentioned that it should affect the people who reach a certain level to a point where they have that influence. Facebook has this particular rule that if you run a page that reaches a significant number of people, so you get to see it when you now hit like 200K, 300K, everyone who manages the page has to be an account that has been properly confirmed and it's
very
not like
I
a
see.
funny, you know,
Yeah,
account.
random
Because at
Russian
that
guy.
point,
Yeah.
you're reaching a substantial
I see,
number
I see, I see.
of people. You know, otherwise you can wake up today and reach 5 people, no problem.
I see.
The moment now you're reaching 100 people,
Yeah.
something like that, then you have 1 million video
There's
views,
a bigger
1 million
threat
stuff
for
like that.
you.
Then now, some kind of check marks need to start coming in.
Yeah, that's a good point you mentioned about Facebook. Yeah, let's talk about regulation that's not government regulation, right? Sort of the big tech companies are putting up, they're coming up with ways of also controlling what you can say. Yeah, for example, Twitter is becoming, I think, the most aggressive of them all. It's even labeling Trump's tweets that this guy is sending fake news. And I was listening to, the guy's name is Jack Dorsey, the Twitter CEO, trying to justify the approach Twitter is taking. They can't remove Trump's tweets, even those that contradict their terms of service, because Trump is a public figure and they think that what he says is relevant as...
Public discourse.
Yes, exactly. And so what they've come up with is labeling that this may be fake news and things like that. And I think the one that I saw was Trump tweeting about how they're going to rig the election and with the mail thing, and Twitter putting a link just within the tweet that this is how you can find about how mail voting is safe, something like that, right?
So I think there's a fundamental, okay, it's not that fundamental, but there is a significant difference between what Facebook is doing and what
exactly.
Twitter
So
is
so
doing.
that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Facebook leaves it like mainly open and puts the notice.
Okay.
At the bottom. It does that.
Oh, it
The
does now. I'm
problem
not on
with it-
Facebook. Yeah.
The problem with it is that it's easily ignored. It's not substantial enough, and it's plain there. And they are not forceful about what they say. Okay, they don't tell you that this is wrong.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
tell you that you go here to find out whether it might be wrong.
Yeah.
Twitter will say it is wrong, and here is the evidence
yeah,
to show
exactly,
that it's
yeah.
wrong. And in some cases, it even hides the tweet.
Yeah,
I
that's
prefer
what
that approach.
Yeah, that's again for me where we're going to disagree fundamentally, because who on Twitter, who in Twitter feel like, has the authority to decide what the truth is, right? Because some of these things are contestable, yeah? And I'm okay with banning sort of very obvious hate speech. You have like, say, the KKK tweeting stuff. I think those people don't need a voice.
And that's what Twitter is doing.
They should be banned. No, but I'm saying some of this stuff is arguably not fake news. So, and I see some of the tweets Trump puts up. Yeah, for example, Trump for me is I'm not big on social media, but some of the stuff Trump does, I follow it. It could be argued, right? Okay, maybe it's fake news, but it can be argued. It's arguably not fake news. Right?
The thing I would like to actually really get clear is that most of the times Twitter has stepped in. Okay, it's been where it has been fully debunked. Okay, where you see, if you make a claim,
Yeah.
put some evidence on
Okay,
it and say,
okay.
we are saying ABCD that there has been this fraud or something like
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
what Twitter does, it says, look, this tweet has A, not shown any evidence to back this up, but B, there has been sufficient evidence that has been shown to actually prove that what they are saying is wrong.
Okay, so again, this is a very, very, what do they call it, thin ice, right? There are very many things we just do in the world that there's significant evidence that they are wrong, that they're not true, right? Christians, I think most people here are Christians, right? If you're talking about evidence, there is significant evidence that most of the stuff in the Bible is, by Twitter standards, is nonsense, right? The thing is, if Twitter wants to claim that it holds some power over what would be true to me, because if I'm a Christian and I believe that the world was made in 7 days, yeah, there's significant evidence that is not true. Yeah, if Twitter tells me, since because of our rules of truth, this I don't want anyone to watch it, I'm going to hide the tweet. I feel like that is
But that's the
overstepping.
thing, is that you see the tweet is available. That's one. Okay?
But it's like the reach. I'm saying. So I tweet, for example, for me speaking, I already know what I'm saying, right? I'm tweeting to reach out to people. Yeah. to reach out to like-minded people, right? Say these are flat Earth guys, the theory, the flat Earth guys, right? I'm tweeting to reach out to people. I have my thoughts and I want to talk to people. But now Twitter is saying, you guy, we have this table of truths and your thing doesn't fit in, right? So we are going to throw it away, right? I feel like it doesn't have that power. What I like about Facebook is saying, we believe in the end the truth will prevail, right? So you say whatever you want, we shall give our opinion. What you said you don't like because small, we shall give our opinion.
That's the thing. Facebook doesn't give you that opinion.
No, but they put a disclaimer, and I've taken a while without using this social media. So right now I'm talking about information.
That's exactly my point, is that you see, let's say, I don't want to use his name, but let's say he posts something that is blatantly false. Okay? So here's the difference. Facebook will say, go here to find out about information. Okay? Twitter will say, this has been proven to be blatantly false, and here is how to find out about it. Okay? It's not removed it. But it restricts who it reaches. No, it doesn't restrict. It reaches so many people, and that's why they even need to. Otherwise, they would just block its access. They wouldn't need to alert people if they were restricting its access. Then they wouldn't need to tell you that it's blatantly wrong. However, let's talk about the issue of, like, let's say the people who claim the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Okay. All that it's trying to say is that please produce the evidence that the Earth is flat.
I don't have to have evidence for my opinions, and that's the thing. Is
then
this sort of scientism conversation, the way we converse, like we are scientific, super rational, empirical beings. We have to carry around. I believe things that okay, maybe not me, but some people believe in ghosts and things like that. Yeah?
True.
They don't have evidence, but that is how they are. That is how they make sense of the world.
Let it be a belief. Yeah. Let it be a belief as opposed to. Tell me, I believe that, there's a guy inside that TV right now listening to us. Okay? Don't tell me there's a guy in the TV.
No, but some of these things that get debunked, and I've read some of these social science papers, and it's very beautiful English, but for me, it's total nonsense. Some of these things that get debunked are in that language, They come with very beautiful academic language that sounds like it's very academic, but if you don't know anything about what they're saying, and they use also numbers. For example, I'm not going to give that example, but they use numbers. They can come up with statistics that have faulty, sort of the baseline is faulty, or they are It's sort of very tricky if you don't know if you don't have that, so if you're not intellectually at the place where you can understand what they're saying, why they claim that is proof. And then they throw a conclusion that would make sense, And this, rather a conclusion that is more agreeable to you, because again, they're usually targeting people they agree with, And these things, Twitter, instead of Twitter providing evidence itself, right, that this is not true. Some of these things are vague, right?
But that's what it does. It debunks. It says,
but debunking is not the same thing as providing evidence, by the way.
In the process of debunking, you provide evidence that shows.
So there are some things that are not falsifiable, and most of these are the things I'm talking about, right? And I want to talk about God and maybe consciousness. Let's talk about consciousness. I've read a couple of books, people trying to say there's consciousness, but that's the same God conversation, right? We don't know whether this is just all of it or there's some weird consciousness or whatever. But then, I don't have proof that there's consciousness. I also don't have proof that there is no consciousness. This is not falsifiable. This is just a vague thought that I have, right? Twitter is saying, since this is our thing, this guy is going to be debunked. Because again, most of it is a reputation thing. We have studies from, say, social science, for example. You can tweak the study to be whatever you want, basically. You have studies that say people who, that marshmallow thing, people who take long to eat the marshmallow become better in life. And then you have another study that says, oh no, it's not because of the marshmallow, it is because they had better parents. Things like that. And the game is very, very tricky. And then now Twitter is saying, oh, the world is not as complex as you think because we know what the truth is. For me, that is my biggest problem. The world is too complex to have one authority in charge of truth. And I feel like Twitter and most of those guys, this is something with this COVID thing. The COVID thing, the UN came out to lie to us that masks are terrible. Right now people are wearing masks, but people are trying to forget. The media has chosen to let us forget that the UN and in order to save masks for doctors and that the US thing, I forget what they call it, the US thing in charge of health, they came out and made official statements that masks are not helpful. I watched that on TV, on Facebook.
No.
Oh, no, this I'll send you a link, don't worry. This I'm sure about. They made an official link on, it's a Facebook CNN that I saw, where they're saying masks, before, when the COVID thing had just started, when the masks were getting hoarded.
What I know is that the thing is that they didn't stress the importance of masks.
No, they specifically said that masks do not reduce. I remember the statement was false by all standards of falseness. Masks do not increase your standards of what? Of safety. Because people were hoarding the masks, right? And they were like, they do not, I'm not saying the link, I don't remember the exact words. And people had to actually go on Twitter and debate this because Twitter had put up a link that anything that is rather a rule, anything that you're talking about that is COVID related, has to be passed through. It has to be agreeable by that institution, the US institution, I forget the name. But the US institution is telling us a blatant lie because they have, the intentions are good, but now they're twisting the truth. And Twitter is saying, now we've changed our definition of truth to be what is in this guy's interest.
So I'm very interested in seeing the link you're referring to. And the thing about information these days is that it keeps evolving. To be honest, if the way it is structured, the way the information gets like sent to us is what like differs. So normally they wouldn't say, for example, that the masks are bad for you. They would say that we don't have the evidence to show that
that is what they said.
The masks are critical or part of it. And the good thing about science is that as new information comes and people evolve, if the scientist should be the first person to be able to say, okay, now after more study,
I agree.
I am taking this new path. Basically, I am following wherever the path is taking me in. When it comes to technology companies and their role in being able to do that, I really feel the best way is for them to be able to, where it's so blatant that this information is a conspiracy theory that has been shown multiple times not to be true, I really feel that it should be flagged. Otherwise, we shall be in a wild, wild west where
I prefer
I wake up and say, anything, and then many people believe it. The QAnon kind of problem that we have right now.
I tell you, for me, I prefer that world. Right now, for example, in Uganda.
Which is okay.
I agree. But, so right now, for example, in Uganda, right, we have this one guy who is in charge of truth, telling us all the lies filtered through him, right?
Which one guy?
Museveni. Who else? When someone says one guy, it's only one guy you have to think about, right? Yeah. So Museveni is in charge of Uganda's truth, right? So
How?
Right now, I'll give an example.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, there is a conspiracy about whether oil is being stolen, right?
A conspiracy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a conspiracy theory because we don't have proof, right? But people say the first family, for example, and these are not the opinions expressed here of someone else, not okay.
But your legal disclaimers.
The thing is, the first family, for example, there's a conspiracy, right? And this, I don't know how true this is, that the oil is being stolen, right? But instead of the government coming out with clear proof, proof that will be convincing to you and me, they're just denying, which is for me tricky because because they are the authority on the truth. So if Museveni says the oil is not being stolen, that is the official Ugandan sentiment. The oil is not being stolen, right? It doesn't matter what Bobi Wine says. Yeah?
But what do the locals say?
Yeah, the locals say the trucks are going. And also it depends on which local you're talking to. If you talk to a guy in Hoima who believes in NRM, he says you're just testing trucks. If you talk to a guy in Hoima who wants Bobi Wine, he says never being about to come oil. It also depends. But the truth is what? Because we have this official source of truth, we are bound to believe that the oil is not stolen because Museveni says the oil is not stolen. But if everyone was just saying whatever they want, then we are pushed to find scientific proof that something is wrong or right. These people who are lazy, who want other people to think for them, who want Twitter to censor for them the truth,
but
they will be pushed.
But that's the thing, is that we need to reach a level where hoimanews.com, okay, can be
okay.
able to release an investigation that says oil is being tracked out of oil.
Yeah.
Okay, they have photos, they have videos, they have people who have leaked information to them from within. They have investigated that, they have corroborated that information, and then published it. Okay, for every sensible Ugandan to be able to say, okay, I have seen this information and I have now come up with my own conclusion on the matter. And I feel that is something, the capacity we need to
build instead.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
I see your point about having influence on news, and obviously that is a possibility. But my response to that is that we need to be in a position where no one can be able to influence, and when news is coming out, it should be able to come out. Obviously, even in America, even in China, news gets killed.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
An investigation about this, whether by being paid off or whether by all sorts of tactics that are doing that.
Yeah.
And so the theory about one person, deciding what the facts are, I really feel that if there are facts out, people need to do it to find ways to get the facts out, and that's the level we need to be at, where everyone is reading a well-written piece from hoimanews.com explaining what time the trucks move out, which kind of trucks move out, that kind of stuff. So that even you who believed that oil is not moving out gets to do it to say, okay,
exactly. Yeah.
It's like the football conversation. You get, Messi versus Ronaldo, versus Ronaldo. Okay, the facts are there.
The facts are here,
and that is how people. And that's why sometimes you'll find a Messi fan who will be in a conversation where people are like discounting Ronaldo, will be like, yeah, I'm saying this, but at the back of my mind, I that guy is good. Similarly, Ronaldo guys who has actually seen Messi, weave his way through defenders also now said, okay, I am a Ronaldo guy, I'm saying that, but at the back of my mind, I know that guy is good.
I agree. And I think the facts, if transparency basically, can go a long way in making the truth itself accessible, without having to pass through a single man filter. And before we conclude, we are going to hint on the one thing that I think is sort of the next generation innovation for this kind of problem, right? The blockchain. The blockchain comes in a way to decentralize authority, right? So you come, let's talk about Bitcoin, for example, the innovation around money, right? Before, and I'm sure you know this, I'm just going to echo this out so you understand where I'm coming from. Before I want to send you money or I want to buy something from you, but I don't have the capacity to physically exchange money with you, I send money to a bank, you confirm with the bank that the money is there, you post the thing with me, and I confirm with the bank that thing has reached me, the bank sends money to you, right? So we have this one institution that is in charge of the truth. Yeah, but today, for example, blockchain brings math in that. So I can do peer-to-peer. I make a transaction with you. You send me stuff directly with you. And this blockchain, all this fancy technology, can do calculations to prove that the money I'm sending you, I'm not using the same money to send someone else. The money has been spent. There's no double spend problem, which is the same thing as me giving you cash for your services, right? Maybe there's no solution yet for whether you'll actually send me, whether you'll ship whatever you're shipping. But the issue of the money, the decentralization, I feel like if we expand blockchain to say truth and things like that, where fake news goes through decentralized avenues or a sort of voting system of whether this is true, whether this is false, for example, and weights on what evidence is valid to perform this is true, then we can have a system, even if it's not as transparent as, say, Twitter producing a few links under your tweet to disprove it. We have that this maybe has a truth weight of 2 with out of 10, 2 out of 10, because our decentralized blockchain truth system has calculated it from all the data it has. I feel like that is sort of the future of rather than, and again, I totally disagree with Twitter's decision to claim that its employees know a little more about the truth than we do. That I totally disagree with. So that is sort of my opinion. Again, as we conclude, if you have an opinion on that as well, you can share it.
I feel you're 100 years ahead. I won't pretend to be at that wavelength. The truth of the matter is I am ignorant. Like really looking at it from that particular lens, it's just we wish that there would be like lots of advancement in the way we do a lot of things, and obviously we are in that generation where we are breaking those many barriers. At the end of the day, for me right now, it's all speculation. And it's all, wishful thinking. Obviously, some of these targets will be able to hit them, but I come from the school of thought that we need to focus on it now, especially for us. I agree. In our industry, our market, it's one where it's not a problem for us, where we need to focus on the basics, real basics. Going back to the beginning of our conversation when we were talking about sports, in 2015, we went to Barcelona, and we were organizing a football match with Barcelona legends coming in here, and so this was my first time into Barcelona, the club, and the stuff that I saw was like out of this world. Having come from Uganda and having seen, forget like I'm exposed enough to having been in global cities and seen the development that is there. I was just simply putting Barcelona on one stool and then putting the best of the best, okay, in Uganda, or even cast the net wider to East Africa or even in Africa. And coming out of it, my thinking was that these guys are miles ahead, and we shouldn't be trying to compete at their level, because it's a pointless effort. I felt that we need to do the things that they did many years ago, because again, it's a culmination of multiple things that has brought them at that level. Because I came out, like, I go into the Barcelona office, and I've been to the Google office, I've been to the Facebook office, and I am seeing lots of similarities. And in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, the Audi CEO walks in here and he's happy to leave down a 300 million check. Okay, why? Because of what he has seen. I see. But then you have a federation in Uganda, federation, not a club, a federation in Uganda, and it is housed in a container. In a container, a hot container in Lugogo, something like that. And that is the federation of the entire sport in the country. So I left that place saying, okay, if we do the basics, which would mean doing 5% of what Barcelona does, 10% of what, not 20, nothing, just that. It's like we move miles ahead. And I felt that if we are able to let's look at infrastructure in Uganda. Okay, I've always said that. So we decide to do a road, and then we eat half of the road. Okay.
Yeah, and it takes forever.
If we can reduce the eating of that half of the road to 5%, let 5% of the road be eaten. Okay, so that we have 95% of that road. It is a significant progress for us before we reach a level where nothing is eaten from the road, or even more is added into the road. But we are at the level where a road comes up and half of it has been eaten.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm going to first say this, and this echoes a little bit of some of the conversations I hear. First of all, when it comes to tailing, right, do basics, do the things that we know have worked well, say, for Barcelona in our institutions. I half agree with that. I think that this is a different problem. And you may be right that I may be wrong, rather, that, it's a matter of just chasing. But I think this is entirely different, right? What we have, even if there's a similarity that we all want football, but what we want from football is different from what the people in Barcelona want from football. Yeah, and that is my opinion. The same thing with the road thing, right? When people say maybe we should eat less, they're looking at eating as the easier problem. Yeah, I think that building the road is the easier problem. I see you can go to the internet and Google blueprints for roads. That is the easier problem. But the issue with money, and this is, I think, the flow with the Soviet Union, the issue with managing people's interests, that is complex. And we have a different issue here because, first of all, we are young, right? And this is, I think, the argument Mwenda makes. I don't want to concur with Mwenda, but some of this is true. We are a little bit younger than most of those economies, right? They've gone through this. They've been where we are, right? But today, and for them...
Why are we young?
Eh?
Why are we a young population?
In terms of civilization, not young population. I'm saying civilization.
So why are we as young
civilization? Because we are they came and colonized us, and they tried to make us think that the future of civilization is what we are. Yeah, and this is actually echoing with my point. Yeah, unless we decide to say we are going to take on a Ugandan identity or an African identity, which we, by the way, do not have. What we have as, modern culture right now is listening to Drake, the American pop culture.
But sort of interrupting you, that's exactly what I mean. Is that, you see, but I when you talk, like, let's say, the approach to it, I don't mind us not replicating what Barcelona has done or what music in America has done or anything like that. All I'm saying is the steps that need to happen, whether it is a road or not, or whether it is whatever form of civilization. The point is those guys went through and did it. If we can get to step one and do it, whether it involves eliminating corruption or changing mindsets or education or whatever it is, the point is we are not making that progress.
I think on that part we agree. So what I'm trying to say is when Barcelona tries to be what Barcelona is today, it wasn't looking up to someone else, right? It was being original. Yeah, and for us today to be, for example, this COVID thing, and this was the thing that was going to interest me, that I was curious to see in terms of sports, for example, yeah? If we've seen right now that the Premier League may go probably half of this entire season without fans buying tickets to see in the pitch. So they're all seeing everything broadcast online, yeah? If we also, instead of trying to build stadiums, yeah? If we invested that money instead in broadcasting the games, and I'm just throwing hypothetical, if we took a different approach, right? Don't try to follow the Western approach because they had different problems by the time they came up with those solutions. Try to take a realistic today approach where we skip some of the phases that we don't think are relevant, right? We get, and for me, the thing of commentary, right? The CBS guy sitting on a Villa, rather on a school match, actually not a Villa match, sitting on a Ginger College match and sending commentary to me on my phone. I feel like that is more achievable, and it targets me better than expecting that this guy is going to get all those cameras and lenses to broadcast the match like, ESPN would do it, right? And my thing is, we don't have to copy these guys, but there is fundamentally one way to see society, right? We all want to get to that utopia thing. It may not be achievable, but that's where everyone wants to go. And we can see from here where we are, what is our easiest path there? What are the mistakes these guys have made that we don't have to bother doing again? Or what are the problems that they don't have, that we have, for example, yeah? And we try to find our own way without trying to be Barcelona. We try to broadcast football without having to, or we try to make sure people enjoy football without having to require people to come to pitches. Things like that.
I agree with that. And what I want to be clear about is that, look, when you mention, for example, investment, okay? They have decided to invest in broadcasting, like via TV. You want us to invest in being able to do live commentary and stuff like that. So my point is that we need to reach a point where we also decide to invest. Okay? Whether we are going to copy them and invest on the same thing, or we are going to invest on something else. But the truth of the matter is we also need to invest. And that's where I am. I'm saying that those are the steps. Forget the actual.
I see what you mean.
You know, like path to follow. We all need to know that we need to move forward, and what are the requirements for us to move forward, and therefore that's what to do. When you look at our music or movies, stuff like that, for example, there's a time when many people consume lots of Nigerian movies. But it happened because those guys decided
Nigeria
to invest in their movies.
I see what you mean.
They did not decide to make the movies like the Americans.
I see.
Or like the Indians in Bollywood, but they made the movies. They told their stories.
I totally agree. I think that's perfect. Also to wrap this up. Thanks, Joseph, for coming. I think this has been quite interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, maybe you'll come back next time and we'll talk about Nigerian movies strictly. Because I have my opinions on those as well.
I don't like Nigerian movies, but I envy
the industry.
The kind of progress that they have had. I wish we could make Nigerian movies. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks again. Because for me, the Ugandan identity thing, that is like the thing that bothers me a lot. Even when for the Nigerian was listening to, when I was growing up, I was listening to Lingara. We've not had, we've had Kadongo Kamu at some point when the Kaferos were good, but it wasn't.
That's the same thing. Like, we need to be able to decide that this is what needs to happen. And then we do our own stuff. Whether it's the music, let's make the music. Let's distribute it so that we can also have our own Kadongo Kamu superstar or Afrobeats or whatever it is. But at the same, what will be happening is that we are following the path, and whether it is in the form of distribution or producing the music, we are doing it, storing that information in some way or the other.
No, I agree. Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.